This did not happen on primetime television. There was no countdown clock, no urgent press conference. But just after 2 a.m., a quiet decision inside the Treasury may have reshaped who gets help first in America. A $2,000 tariff rebate was officially approved, and overnight, low-income seniors were moved into priority status, ahead of millions of working households. If you live on Social Security, if your income is fixed while prices keep rising, or if you've been told before that relief programs come last for people like you, this update could directly affect your financial future. Because for the first time since this program was announced, seniors are no longer waiting at the back of the line. And what happened behind closed doors explains why. A quiet approval with major consequences. Late last night, the White House confirmed that President Trump officially approved the $2,000 tariff rebate checks. On the surface, it sounded like a routine policy update. But beneath that headline, something far more significant happened. According to internal Treasury notifications released quietly overnight, low-income seniors were added to a brand-new priority eligibility list, a list that did not exist earlier this week. This change is real, it is confirmed, and it directly affects anyone receiving Social Security, SSI, or SSDI. Until now, the tariff rebate program was primarily designed for middle-income families and workers impacted by rising import costs. Seniors were mentioned, but they were never formally prioritized. That changed suddenly. For the first time, seniors living on fixed or limited income were moved into early access status, meaning their payments could be reviewed and approved before millions of other households. What triggered this shift was not politics or public pressure. It was data. Updated Treasury language now states that households with limited or fixed income should not be left behind. That single sentence set off a chain reaction inside the system. If your income falls below certain thresholds, especially if Social Security is your primary or only source of income, your eligibility score has now improved significantly. This is not speculation. It is an internal structural change already being implemented. And while most Americans were asleep, the order of the line changed. If you rely on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, comment "Senior" below. Your comment helps this update reach the people who need it most and tells me who this information matters to. Why seniors were suddenly moved forward. To understand why this update happened so abruptly, we need to look at what was unfolding behind the scenes before last night's confirmation. For weeks, most Americans only saw one headline: $2,000 tariff rebate checks approved. What they did not see was the growing concern inside the administration about who was being left behind. Over the past 2 weeks, President Trump and his economic advisors had been quietly revisiting the structure of the rebate program. Early versions of the plan were never designed to prioritize seniors. The focus was on workers and middle-income households affected by higher prices on imported goods. That approach changed after new economic reports reached the White House. Those reports showed a sharp rise in financial stress among older Americans. Inflation was climbing, but Social Security checks were not. Rent, food, utilities, and medical costs were taking a larger share of fixed monthly income, especially for seniors receiving less than $300 per month. According to advisors involved in the review, that data became the turning point. One concern stood out clearly. If the government was returning tariff revenue to Americans, those with the least buying power should not be last in line. That realization triggered a fast-track internal review inside the Treasury. The goal was not to expand the program, but to retarget it. The result was a structural shift. Seniors were no longer treated as an afterthought. They were reclassified as a high-impact group, and once that door opened, the entire priority system began to change. Why this rebate is not a stimulus check. One reason this update moved so quickly is because this $2,000 payment is not a stimulus check, and that distinction changes everything. Unlike past stimulus programs, this rebate is funded entirely through tariff revenue. That means the money comes from taxes already collected on imported goods, not from new government spending. Because of that structure, this program does not require Congress to pass a new bill. There is no need for weeks of negotiation or political compromise. Once the eligibility framework is finalized, the Treasury has the authority to act. President Trump has made the same argument since tariffs were first imposed. If those tariffs generate billions of dollars, that revenue should flow back to American households, not remain idle. What changed recently was how that money would be distributed. As inflation data worsened, Treasury officials were instructed to reassess which groups were most affected by rising prices. The directive was clear: identify households with limited income, low financial mobility, or fixed benefits, and move them into priority review. That instruction immediately elevated seniors. Most seniors live on predictable, fixed income streams. Their monthly benefits do not increase when prices rise. Under the revised framework, that lack of flexibility became a critical risk factor. Because this was a tariff-funded program, not a stimulus, Treasury could redesign the eligibility logic internally. And that redesign happened quietly, without public debate. The result was a faster, more targeted system, one that could be recalibrated based on real-time economic data. And once Treasury recalculated who was most vulnerable, seniors didn't just qualify, they moved forward. Next, we need to look at how Treasury decided who moves first, because they didn't just adjust income limits, they built an entirely new scoring system. The scoring formula that reordered the line. When the Treasury began its internal review, officials did not simply raise income limits or add a new checkbox for seniors. Instead, they built a scoring formula designed to measure real financial vulnerability. This formula became the engine behind the entire reshuffle. The system evaluates several factors at once: annual income, dependence on federal benefits, purchasing power, and something newly emphasized, benefit stability. That last factor is where seniors stood out immediately. For working households, income can fluctuate. Over time, hours change. Side income appears and disappears. But for seniors relying on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, income is fixed. It does not rise when prices rise. Under the new model, that predictability became a liability. Treasury analysts concluded that households with stable but limited income are more exposed to inflation than households with higher but variable earnings. Every increase in rent, groceries, utilities, or medical costs hits harder when income cannot adjust. As a result, seniors who rely heavily on federal benefits scored significantly higher under this formula than many working households earning more on paper. This is why the update felt sudden. Once the scoring model was applied across the system, seniors didn't slowly move up. They jumped. The data forced a reordering of the line, one that could not be ignored or delayed. And when Treasury saw where seniors landed under this formula, the next step became inevitable. They reorganized the entire rebate program into priority tiers based on these scores. That's where the real impact begins. Inside the three-tier priority structure. Once the scoring formula was finalized, the Treasury moved quickly to restructure the entire rebate program into a three-tier priority system. This is where the impact of the changes became impossible to ignore. Originally, Tier 1 was intended for middle-income workers earning roughly between $30,000 and $75,000 per year. These households were expected to receive payments early because their income and tax records were straightforward. But under the updated scoring model, that structure changed. Low-income seniors were moved directly into Tier 1, not placed behind it, not delayed into later rounds, added into the highest priority category. If your annual income falls below roughly $30,000, or if your monthly Social Security check is below the national median, your priority score increases sharply. Seniors living on fixed benefits are now grouped with the earliest recipients, rather than waiting behind millions of working households. Tier 2 now covers many working families earning between $40,000 and $90,000 per year. This group was originally expected to be paid quickly, but the rebalancing pushed portions of Tier 2 into later distribution rounds. Tier 3 is reserved for higher-income households or individuals whose records require additional IRS review. These cases involve more complex verification, updated filings, or manual adjustments. Notably, most seniors are not placed in Tier 3. That fact alone highlights the significance of this shift. Seniors were not simply included, they were elevated. This tiered system explains why timelines suddenly appear confusing online. The payment order is no longer based solely on income, it's based on vulnerability and stability. And next, we need to talk about a group that wasn't part of the original plan at all. A group added quietly at the last moment, one that may receive approvals even faster. The $1,100 group added at the last minute. Just when the Treasury believed the new priority structure was complete, another change appeared, quietly and at the very last moment. Inside the updated internal Treasury memo, officials added a final senior category that had not been mentioned in public announcements, early drafts, or media coverage. This group was introduced only hours before the approval became official. The group includes fixed-income seniors receiving less than $1,100 per month. This threshold was not chosen randomly. According to Treasury analysts, seniors living on under $1,100 a month represent the most financially vulnerable households in the system. At that level of income, there is virtually no flexibility. Even small increases in rent, food, utilities, or medical expenses can push budgets into crisis. When the latest inflation data was reviewed, this group stood out immediately. The data showed that seniors below the $1,100 mark were absorbing price increases at a rate far beyond any other category. Once that information reached senior officials, the response was swift. These seniors were moved into the same high-priority lane as other low-income seniors without delay. This means some individuals at the very bottom of the income scale may now receive approvals before millions of working households, regardless of filing order. This was not a symbolic gesture. It was a structural correction driven entirely by data. And next, we need to explain why many of these seniors and most others in the priority tiers won't need to apply at all, because the system was redesigned to move them through faster than almost anyone else. Why most seniors will not need to apply. One of the most important and least understood parts of this update is that most seniors will not need to apply at all to receive the $2,000 rebate. According to the revised Treasury guidance, eligibility for low-income seniors will be reviewed automatically using data already on file with the Social Security Administration and the IRS. That decision was intentional. Treasury officials recognized that requiring applications would slow down the very group they were trying to prioritize. Most seniors already have verified income histories, benefit records, and identity information stored within federal systems. To address this, the Treasury created what internal documents describe as a rapid verification pathway. If your primary or only income comes from Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, your financial profile is already documented. There are no employer records to verify, no fluctuating wages to review, and no additional paperwork needed in most cases. Even seniors who filed zero income tax returns in recent years, previously a cause of processing delays, are now being reviewed using SSA benefit data instead. This bypasses many of the bottlenecks that slowed earlier programs. Only a small percentage of seniors may be contacted for additional confirmation. That usually happens if records are outdated, addresses do not match, or direct deposit information needs to be updated. For the vast majority, the process is hands-off. This is why seniors are moving faster through the system than many other groups. The infrastructure was already in place, and now it's being used. Next, we need to address a concern many seniors have raised repeatedly, because faster approval brings a serious question with it. Will this money affect your Social Security or SSI benefits? Will the $2,000 rebate affect your benefits? This is one of the most common concerns seniors have, and it's an important one. If you receive this $2,000 tariff rebate, will it affect your Social Security, SSI, or SSDI benefits? According to the updated Treasury guidance, the answer is no. This payment is not classified as income for benefit purposes. That means it does not count toward income limits used to calculate Social Security, SSI, or SSDI eligibility. Your monthly benefit amount will not be reduced, recalculated, or adjusted because of this rebate. Treasury officials made this distinction very clear, knowing that many seniors hesitate to accept financial assistance if there is even a small risk of losing long-term benefits. The purpose of this rebate is not to replace income. It is not a substitute for Social Security. It is designed as temporary financial relief to help offset rising costs, especially for households with fixed incomes. This payment is processed separately from your regular benefits. Even if the rebate arrives close to your monthly Social Security deposit, the two systems do not interact. One does not trigger changes in the other. For seniors relying on SSI or SSDI, this clarification is especially important. The rebate will not push you over eligibility thresholds or jeopardize future payments. In short, this is additional money, not a trade-off. And now that benefits are protected, the next question many seniors are asking is about politics. Could this still be delayed, blocked, or reversed? That's what we need to address next. Does this program depend on Congress or politics? As soon as news of this rebate began circulating, one question came up again and again. Can this still be blocked by Congress? Can political disagreement slow it down, or could it be reversed altogether? According to Treasury officials, the answer is no. This $2,000 tariff rebate program does not depend on new legislation. It does not require Congress to pass a separate bill. It is already authorized under existing tariff collection laws and is being executed directly through the Treasury Department. That's a critical difference. Unlike stimulus checks in the past, which required lengthy congressional negotiations, this program draws from tariff revenue that has already been collected. Once eligibility rules were finalized, Treasury had the authority to move forward immediately. That authority is now in place. Political debate may continue in Washington. Lawmakers may argue about tariffs, trade policy, or economic priorities, but those discussions do not pause or undo the mechanics of this rebate. Eligibility is determined by data, not votes. If your income profile places you in a priority tier, especially as a low-income senior, your position in line is based on scoring and verification, not on the outcome of political negotiations. This is why the update could be implemented quietly and quickly. Treasury did not need public approval. It needed finalized criteria. That step is now complete. However, even with eligibility secured, there are still internal processing steps that determine when payments are released. That's what we need to examine next, because understanding the system can help prevent unnecessary delays. What happens next inside the system? Now that eligibility rules are finalized, the program moves into its next phase, internal processing and verification. This is the part most people never see, but it plays a major role in timing. First, the Treasury finalizes what's known internally as the routing list. This list determines the order in which accounts are reviewed and cleared for payment. Seniors placed in the highest priority tiers are already flagged at this stage. Next, the IRS verifies identity records. This step confirms names, social security numbers, and tax identifiers across federal systems. For most seniors, this process is relatively quick because their records are stable and rarely change. After that, the Social Security Administration confirms benefit accounts, including direct deposit information. Treasury prefers to use existing benefit payment channels whenever possible because they are already secure and verified. None of these steps change your eligibility. They only affect how fast your payment moves through the system. Delays can occur if records are outdated, such as an old mailing address, a closed bank account, or mismatched information between agencies. When that happens, seniors may receive alerts asking them to confirm or update details. These alerts are not a setback. They are part of the verification process. In fact, internal documents refer to many seniors as fast verify households. Their information already exists in federal systems, allowing approvals to move faster than for many working households. Once verification is complete, accounts are cleared for scheduling, and that's when timelines start to matter. Which brings us to the next question seniors are asking. When might you actually see updates or payments? When seniors may see updates and payments with verification underway, the question most seniors are asking now is simple. When will something actually happen? While the Treasury has not released exact payment dates yet, internal projections outline a clear order of events. Seniors placed in Tier 1, especially low-income seniors and those on fixed benefits, are expected to move through the system first. Because their income and benefit records already exist within SSA and IRS databases, their eligibility can be confirmed faster than most other groups. That means many seniors may see status updates before millions of working households even enter the full review process. These updates may appear in IRS or Social Security online portals and can include identity confirmations, address checks, or payment preference notices. Seeing an alert does not mean there is a problem. It usually means your account is actively being processed. After Tier 1 seniors, payments will move to Tier 2 households, followed later by Tier 3 cases that require additional verification. The system is designed to prioritize completion, not application order. Another factor that affects timing is payment method. Seniors with direct deposit on file typically receive funds faster than those who receive mailed checks. That's why having up-to-date banking information matters. While patience is still required, one conclusion is already clear. For the first time since this program was announced, seniors are not waiting at the end of the line. And finally, we need to talk about what you should be doing right now to make sure nothing slows your payment down. What seniors should do right now. As this program moves from approval into execution, there are several practical steps seniors should take right now to make sure nothing slows their payment down. First, check your information. Make sure your address, direct deposit details, and contact information are current with both the Social Security Administration and the IRS. Even small issues like an old address or a closed bank account can create delays during verification. Second, monitor your online portals. Over the next several days and weeks, you may see alerts in your IRS or SSA accounts. These notices may ask you to confirm identity details, update payment preferences, or review account information. Do not ignore them. Responding promptly helps keep your account in the priority lane. Third, stay informed. Treasury officials may release additional guidance on payment sequencing, verification timelines, or distribution windows. These updates may not always make major headlines, but they matter, especially for seniors in the highest priority tiers. And finally, a word directly to seniors watching this. The last few years have been incredibly difficult. Prices climbed, bills got tighter, and millions of older Americans were forced to stretch the same fixed income further and further each month. This update does not fix everything, but it does represent something important. It shows that your situation is being recognized, that your financial reality is being taken seriously, and that for once you are not last in line. Seniors are no longer an afterthought in this program. They are a priority. Stay prepared, stay alert, and stay hopeful. More updates are coming, and when they do, we'll be here to break them down clearly, calmly, and honestly. Why seniors are now considered fast verify. Households. One phrase inside the updated Treasury memo explains why seniors are moving through this system faster than almost anyone expected. That phrase is fast verify households. This designation is not symbolic. It has real operational meaning. Fast verify households are those whose financial information already exists in full across federal systems. Income records, identity verification, and payment history are already confirmed. There is very little left to check. Low-income seniors fall squarely into this category. Most seniors receive benefits directly from the Social Security Administration. Their income does not fluctuate, their benefit amounts are consistent, their payment methods, usually direct deposit, are already verified and secure. From a processing standpoint, this makes seniors easier to approve than many working households with multiple income sources, recent job changes, or complex tax filings. That's why Treasury redesigned the system the way it did. Instead of slowing everything down by requiring applications, the agency chose to lean on existing data. That allowed them to move seniors into priority lanes without adding friction. This also explains why seniors who filed zero income tax returns in recent years are no longer stuck in review limbo. SSA data now fills the gap that previously caused delays. The result is a system where seniors are not just prioritized, they are streamlined. Their approvals require fewer steps, their verifications take less time, and their path to payment is clearer. This is a fundamental shift from how many past relief programs operated. And next, we need to talk about what this shift signals beyond just this rebate, because it may shape how future programs treat seniors. What this shift means for future relief programs. Beyond the immediate $2,000 rebate, this update signals something larger, something many seniors have not seen in a long time. It shows a shift in how vulnerability is being defined inside federal programs. For years, relief efforts were built around employment status, tax filings, or workforce participation. Seniors, especially those on fixed income, often fell into gray areas. They were acknowledged, but rarely prioritized. This time was different. Instead of asking who earns the most or pays the most taxes, Treasury asked a different question. Who has the least ability to absorb rising costs? That question changed the outcome. By focusing on income stability and purchasing power, the system recognized what seniors have been experiencing for years, that fixed income becomes more fragile as inflation rises. The decision to elevate seniors was not framed as a temporary exception. It was framed as a correction, and that matters. Because once agencies build systems that rely on SSA data, benefit stability, and automatic verification, those systems don't disappear after one program. They become templates. Future relief efforts, whether tied to inflation, cost of living adjustments, or economic shocks, are likely to reuse the same logic. Seniors may no longer need to prove hardship repeatedly. The data already does that. This doesn't mean every future program will look the same, but it does mean seniors have moved into clearer focus. They are no longer invisible in the data. And finally, we need to bring this story together, what this moment represents, and why it matters right now. That's where we close. Final perspective. Why this moment matters for seniors. When history looks back on this update, it may not be remembered for the dollar amount. It may be remembered for who finally moved forward. For years, seniors living on fixed income have watched prices rise while their monthly checks stayed the same. Rent increased, food costs climbed, utilities became more expensive, and each month required more careful choices. What happened here was not loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was meaningful. Behind closed doors, data forced a recalculation of reality. The system recognized that stability without flexibility is vulnerability. And for the first time in this program, that recognition translated into action. Seniors were not simply included, they were prioritized, they were streamlined, they were moved forward. This $2,000 rebate will not solve every challenge facing older Americans, but it represents something many believed had been lost, a willingness to adjust policy based on lived experience, not just spreadsheets. For seniors watching this, the message is simple. Your situation is being seen, your financial pressure is being acknowledged, and your place in line has changed. Stay alert to updates, keep your information current, and don't underestimate the importance of this moment. Because sometimes real change doesn't arrive with a headline. Sometimes it arrives quietly at 2 a.m. and reshapes what comes next.